You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Days after a small committee in the House of Representatives scrapped all the confidential funds of the Information and Communications Technology Department and for other agencies, the DICT worries about its impact on the country's cybersecurity. Senate Finance Panel Chair Sonny Angara says the move to realign the 2024 budget is not yet final. He adds senators have different stances. Some want to keep the secret funds for some departments untouched, so they need to reach a consensus. Let's go straight to the source. Albay 1st District Representative Edcel Lagman. Congressman Lagman, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and welcome to The Source, sir.
Good morning, Pinky.
All right, let's just do a brief overview on what the small committee did, Congressman. A total of 194 billion pesos was realigned by the small committee for other important projects, hindi ho ba? But I want to first zero in, because this is a lot of numbers, on this 1.23 billion pesos confidential funds that was removed from the OVP, the DepEd, the DICT, the DA, and the DFA. That means these four departments have zero confidential funds. Number one, Congressman, do you agree with this move?
Definitely. It has been a long advocacy of a number of legislators that we eliminate confidential funds from the budget of agencies whose mandate would not include the utilization of confidential or surveillance expenses.
Okay.
I totally agree. And I think we should be able to maintain such zero allocation. But the next move is to determine how wise were the reallocations made to other agencies.
All right, I want to go there too because marami pong dinagdag na allocations, for example, rice subsidy, DOLE, etc. But you said that you agree with this. I wanted to find out from you. Do you also, because you said you agree, that means you agreed with the zero confidential funds for the DICT?
That's correct, because the DICT in the first place has a very low absorptive capacity among the agencies we have reviewed. And number two, the DITC can avail of the services of agencies which have confidential and intelligence funds. I think there should be a sharing of information.
Such as,
and
Congressman?
the DIT can avail of this.
Where can they avail such information?
They can avail, for example, from the National Bureau of Investigation, from the military and police authorities.
Okay.
So there will be no duplication of these activities.
All right. Congressman,
definitely, these agencies should be available.
Okay. I bring that up because yesterday I had Secretary Ivan Uy, and he was definitely unhappy with this, and he wants to appeal it to lawmakers to return the confidential funds. We were talking about this happens, taking out zero confidential funds for the DICT in the face of this PhilHealth data breach, and also yesterday the news on the PSA, a portion of their system also breached. Is it really wise to take out? Do they not need these confidential funds at the moment?
Well, as I've said, they don't have to have this budget on confidential or intelligence funds in their outlay. They could avail of the services of expert agencies like the National Bureau of Investigation, the military, and the police authorities, so that they could be assisted in their need for surveillance.
So when we talk about cybersecurity, you're saying that they should tap the experts from the NBI?
Yes, there is a cybersecurity office and at the NBI.
And the PNP.
So they can do that, so that there will be no duplication of allocations.
Okay, another point that he raised, I'm not sure if you would be aware of this, but I know you scrutinized the budget. They have a budget supposed to be for cybersecurity, which was way back in 2022, it was at 1 billion pesos. And for 2024, the proposal is 300 million pesos. Basically, that's about 70% less. He says they need the budget for their antivirus software, etc. Can this be returned, restored to the DICT, because it may cause some problems on the basically on the cybersecurity of the DICT?
Well, nothing is cast in stone. And I think they can appeal, but as far as I'm concerned, we should maintain the zero allocation. And again, I would like to reiterate that they can avail of the expert services of agencies who are having their own confidential and intelligence funds, which they should be able to share to agencies who would need their expertise.
Moving forward, let's look at where the money will go. This 1.2 billion pesos that was stripped off the 5 departments or agencies will go to NICA at 300 million, NSC at 100 million. You have the Philippine Coast Guard at 200 million and Pag-asa at 400 million. Are you happy with this, or do you want to add more? For example, to Pag-asa, to the Philippine Coast Guard, to the National Security Council?
I'm not happy with this reallocation. I think the 981 million is too huge. And this should be reduced to amount which should be available not to all of these agencies, but particularly to either the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency or the Office of the Executive Director of the National Security Council. And this, either of these two agencies, again, can share their surveillance and intelligence information to the other agencies like the Philippine Coast Guard and the Department of Transportation, which is supposed to develop and expand the Pag-asa Airport. They don't need their own confidential funds for this, because they can avail of the services again of either the National Security Council through its executive director or the National Intelligence Communication Agency. Definitely, I am for the reduction of the 981 million appropriated for these agencies supposed to be in charge of protecting the Philippine territorial rights in the West Philippine Sea. Because to my mind, no amount of confidential and intelligence funds to these agencies would be able to subdue or tame a recidivist aggressor in China.
Congressman Lagman, I hope you don't mind. No, I got a little confused, I'll be honest, with what you said. You said this 900 plus million pesos that was that is going to be allotted to NICA, NSC, PCG, and Pag-asa. You said they should be allotted where again? Could you summarize that, please? Did you want that NICA and NSC come together for their surveillance, or was it the other way around?
First, the amount of 981 million is too huge. Number two, it should be allocated either to NICA or the Executive Director's Office of the National Security Council in a reduced amount. Three, either of these two agencies should be able to share their surveillance and intelligence information to the other agencies like the Philippine Coast Guard and the Department of Transportation. And next, no amount of intelligence or confidential funds will be able to subdue or tame a recidivist aggressor in China. We should be able to look for other measures in order to achieve our end of enforcing the arbitrary award in the Philippines, where many other countries are supporting the Philippines' claim.
Thank you for that summary, Congressman. I get it now. We just rather need to take a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Albay. First District Representative Edcel Lagman. Congressman Lagman, so sabi niyo masyado pong malaki itong 900 million plus na confidential funds. What is acceptable?
Well, probably half of that or even lesser should be acceptable because as I have said, no amount of intelligence and confidential funds will be able to tame an aggressor in China.
But won't
We
it
have
help?
tried diplomacy as well as dialogue, but we have failed. So we should be able to have other means like economic sanctions to be imposed by the Philippines and kindred countries in order to be able to get the implementation of the award. And I think economic sanctions will fall hard on China now that it is experiencing an economic meltdown.
But can't it be a parallel approach, Congressman? Because when initially this was talked about that some of the confidential funds need to be realigned to be able to go to agencies that protect the West Philippine Sea. You have the Philippine Coast Guard who supposedly only had confidential funds amounting to about 10 million pesos. And then if this pushes through, they will have confidential funds now amounting to 200 million pesos. Wouldn't that help even boost their morale, Congressman?
Well, yes, it could, but it would be proper to channel that either to the National Security Council's what you call the executive
Director, yeah.
office of the director, or to the NICA.
Okay.
And these agencies, or either one of them, can share their intelligence and surveillance information to the Coast Guard.
Okay.
So
I
there will be
understand.
no duplication of
Yeah.
appropriations.
In other words, really.
And then pinpoint responsibility.
Yeah, so basically really just go to the NICA or the NSC and have them take care of the surveillance for the other departments as well. But quickly, we were looking at 4.8 originally of the confidential funds. I'm not even talking about intelligence funds because Confi and Intel funds amount to about 10 billion. So 4.8 confidential funds minus the 1.2 more or less is about 3.6 left. Is this okay? Is this adequate? Or do you think they could have tapped more confidential funds from these departments and realigned them to other departments?
Well, definitely they could tap more and pool together all of these deleted funds so that we could rechannel them to economic and social
Okay.
services like education, health, labor, and social services.
Okay.
That we appreciate that they have done this to a certain extent, but there should be more allocation to these economic and social services.
Which you mentioned during the first part of the interview. If we look at, when I started the interview, I was talking about how much really was realigned. That's 194 billion pesos. Maybe some of us are not highlighting that. And this money will go to these services such as for health, dadagdagan po yan, for indigent patients, education as well, rice subsidy. Among the agencies that are getting more funds, DOH, DA, DOLE, DSWD, do you see anything wrong with how much each agency will be getting according to the study and the proposal made by the small committee?
They should get more than what they're getting now. Definitely, when we advocated for the deletion of confidential funds from agencies who do not deserve such funds, we wanted the reallocation made to socio-economic services, not to security agencies. But definitely, we can give some to some security agencies, but not deprive what is appropriately needed by and economic services like education, health, labor, and the Department of Welfare.
And just a last question, Congressman. Should Intel funds also be tapped? Because we're just talking about confidential funds.
Well, intelligence funds should be given frugally to agencies which would need them. So we are also advocating for the reduction of Intel funds. And most probably, no agency should be untouched.
All right, Albay First District Representative Edcel Lagman, sir. I wish we had more time, but I hope to speak to you again. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Thank you,
Thank
Pinky.
you.
And most probably, we'll talk about what is called the extraordinary expenses.
I wish we had time for that. That's 1.6, how much is that, sir? 1.6 billion ho ba?
Yes, yes. And definitely, that is delimited by law. Not
Apo.
only with respect to those who could use it,
Right.
but the amount to use and service the
Okay.
nature of the expenses to be incurred.
Congressman, we'll have a part 2, I promise. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.